Welcome to my first guide on For Honor, dedicated to my little waifu Nobushi. In case you're a new player, are you seeking fast-paced action while being a scary-looking female ghoul that haunts you in your sleep? Then look no further, you're at the right place. Nobushi is a long-ranged hybrid, has decent damage, a complex but entertaining kit, and especially one of the best defensive, counter-attacking fighting styles in the entire game. I can recommend her to new players who want a nice learning curve and a real challenge. For everyone else, rest assured, I can put some conk guides in the video description as well. In chapter 1, I will introduce Nobushi's moveset and all her chains. Next up, in chapter 2 are her parry punishes, out of stamina punishes, and special defense capabilities. In chapter 3, I'm going to talk about her playstyle and my favorite attacks. Finally, in the 4th chapter, I will break down all her matchups, including matchup advantage, general information, and special interactions. This will be a very detailed guide, so make sure you have your popcorn ready, and in case you don't want to watch this horrendously long video ever again, take some notes or look at the times in the video description to find your requested topic.
Victory!
So, let's start with chapter 1. You can find all the damage stats, speed and more on a Google document that I will link in the description below. Make sure to check that one out because I won't explain all her damage in detail. Here I am going to explain all her combos and how to chain into each other. I like to organize her kit into 3 categories. At first, phase 1, which consists of all normal attacks, so basically the ones you see in the top right corner. Secondly, the connectors, which are 2 special attacks including her turtle opener and which lead up to phase 2, where you have Nobushi's unofficial infinite chain. In phase 1 we have 3 combos. Poke the Nest, which is 3 lights, the last one being guaranteed if the second one hits. Hiss and Bite, which is light into heavy. And Death Rattle Form, which is heavy into heavy. All in all, very short combos. The damage on her lights is low, but her heavies are above average. Because of Nobushi's slow lights, she can be easily blocked. However, the feint on her heavies is pretty decent, so you can easily bait parries on her. Next up are her 2 connectors. The first one is Viper's Retreat, which applies 6 normal damage and 20 bleed damage like all bleeding attacks Nobushi has. The other one is her Kick, which is a fast unblockable that guarantees a bleeding light afterwards. If the kick knocks your opponent against a wall though, do get a top heavy instead. These 2 attacks can be chained after any normal attack. You can do a light into Viper's Retreat. You can do heavy, heavy into kick. Well, you get the idea. These 2 attacks form a kind of mix-up. If your opponent is expecting a kick and dodges early, a Viper's Retreat will catch him. When an opponent wants to parry a Viper's Retreat, he will probably get hit by the kick. It's not a real 50-50 though, as on high level people can react to this and play it safe. So remember to mix things up against good opponents, especially because these attacks can be easily punished. Which finally leads us to phase 2, which consists of all her dodge attacks. You can do dodge lights into all 3 directions, and dodge heavies from the left and from the right. These attacks effectively chain into each other. The reason this works is because the recovery frames of all her special attacks can be shortened with a dodge similar to Berserker. It applies on Viper's Retreat, dodge lights, and on dodge heavies. Very slow recovery otherwise. So as your dodge can be followed up, this effectively results in an infinite chain of dodge attacks. You can see that they are not real chains because her block pops up during these attacks if you watch closely. Now these attacks are very unsafe, as their parry timing is very similar, you cannot feint them, and they are very predictable. So remember that you are pushing your luck. On high level, you will get punished. It's not like these attacks don't have normal chains however. The dodge light, for instance, chains into a normal light, guaranteeing the 3rd light of Poke the Nest. The dodge heavy chains into the connectors, so Viper's Retreat and kick, whereas the kick is heavily delayed. Last thing I want to talk about is her hidden stance and how you can use it in her offense effectively. The reason why it's useful in offense is on the one hand the fact that you can follow up with any attack. Normal attacks start on the second part of the chain. So for example, if you do hidden stance into light, you get the bleeding light from poke the nest as well. You can do your dodge attacks, of course, and you get your kick from hidden stance as well. The only thing you cannot do after hidden stance is Viper's retreat, which is no big deal, of course. We have a lot to work with here. On the other hand, hidden stance can always cancel the first attack of the chain. So I do a light, cancelled into hidden stance. Heavy, cancelled into hidden stance. On paper, you get a better feint. If I do heavy feint light, I only get a normal light, a very weak light. Whereas if I cancel into hidden stance, I get the double lights with massive damage. If I heavy feint heavy, I do get a normal heavy. I can do the same with hidden stance. Its heavy has less damage, but heavies after hidden stance have a very unique property. The kick afterwards is faster. It's so fast that it's guaranteed if your opponent got hit by the heavy or even just blocked it. I can show you this rapidly against the bot. If I tell the bot to block and dodge, this is what happens. So even the heavy after hidden stance is stronger than the normal heavy you do after a feint. However, it all comes at a cost. Using hidden stance not only costs some stamina, it stops the regen until 3 seconds after hidden stance finished. This can be quite an issue. You can use feints afterwards, but doing multiple hidden stances will result in you getting out of stamina. This is the biggest problem Nobushi has. Her stamina game is extremely weak. Her offense is strongly determined by it. So what do you do if your opponent is out of stamina? Well, her hidden stance into heavy kick or into heavy feint guard break is kind of a mix-up. However, there is an issue with heavy feint guard break afterwards. You have very little range, and if your opponent just keeps back dodging, you probably won't hit your guard break. In that case, I recommend doing normals and avoiding hidden stance. So that's it for Nobushi's basic moveset, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's move forward to chapter 2. Welcome to chapter 2, which is Nobushi parry punishers, out of stamina punishers, and special counters. In general, the reason you should play Nobushi is because of her strong defense and her huge kit revolving around it. Let's start with the classic stuff. After a light parry, Nobushi gets a top heavy. Nice, 38 damage. After a heavy parry, she gets the Viper's retreat, getting the 36 damage with bleed. Against an already bleeding opponent, she can do a top light into an unsafe heavy instead to abuse the block damage and get around 30 damage in total. A guard break guarantees a top heavy as well. With Nobushi you don't do warp throws as she cannot get more than a heavy, but she can easily fail the throw. After the throw you do get a bleeding light guaranteed, but this is only used in special occasions. For example, when your opponent is out of stamina. When you get the guard break on an opponent who is out of stamina, you should throw and delay the follow-up light until just after her kick animation. Do a top heavy afterwards and you get 72 damage in total. In case your opponent is standing near a wall, throw into light in the same manner, but chain it into a top light and kick instead to get a wall splat which guarantees the top heavy and 94 damage in total. If your opponent is bleeding, you have the option to throw into the wall and get 2 top heavies instead, which is 86 damage in total. If you parry your opponent out of stamina, you only get a side heavy into top heavy, which is 63 damage. As all throws are better, I would recommend dodging the attack instead and getting a guard break to get a much better punish. Now to the interesting stuff. Nobushi can utilize her hidden stance in defense as well, as it has nice iframes on its startup. You also cannot get guard broken out of it as long as you don't start an attack. The fastest follow-up to punish opponents are double lights. The kick is the next fastest. The heavy follow-up is very slow, so it doesn't connect most of the time, but against special attacks, you not only get the heavy, but the confirmed kick afterwards as well, so know your matchups. If you use hidden stance defensively, remember to time it well so you profit from the iframes. Normally, lights, heavies, feints into lights, feints into heavies have each their own window. However, sometimes they blend in together, and in case you need more iframes, don't forget that you can dodge out of your hidden stance as well, which can be a valuable tool to evade mix-ups and get good punishes in reliably. Last but not least, Nobushi has her dodge attacks. They can be done fast, but you can also delay them by just a little bit. Enough to get the first dodge frames from your initial dodge. This way you can use them to counter-attack your opponents as well. But do not forget that your iframes are very limited and your timing really needs to be on point. Or else you get hit because you followed up too early, or even too late to get the dodge attack out. This requires delicate training to get right, but when you do, you will have a very powerful tool in your hands. Her dodge attacks are punishers that cost less stamina than hidden stance and more importantly are especially suited for attacks that are often feinted into guard break, like radar zones, Kong front dashes, Kensei top heavies, etc. However, they lose against soft feinted guard breaks like Centurions, Shamans and Kenseis. Which sums up chapter 2. Well, with that I invite you to chapter 3, Nobushi's playstyle and my preferred combos. First off, in this section of the video I will be talking about the playstyle on higher levels, so I will be assuming that my opponent is skilled. And do not forget, I can talk about her tools and what often works on opponents. However, every opponent is different, so adapt to him. Use what works best, predict his moves and try being ahead on the mind game. In general, Nobushi likes playing at long range, where she hits safely but denies her opponent some mix-ups and improves her defense. Most of the time she is not the aggressor but on the receiving end, trying to find the weakness in the opponent's offense and counter-attack. Her long range lights are good for intercepting anxious attacks and getting her own offense started. To counter parries on her first attacks, utilize hidden stance to get a nice punish. Do some heavies as well to mess with your opponent's parry timing. At this point I have to say that Poke the Nest is a terrible combo and will almost never hit if not using hidden stance. You can easily block and dodge her lights, they are just too slow. If you start your offense, I recommend chaining into the heavy instead. Her heavies are extremely strong as they can be followed up with the connectors even if they are blocked. This means that you maintain momentum on your opponent for a nice period of time. Don't forget to feint the heavies into guard break regularly so you can catch dodges and parry attempts. After a finished normal combo, try using the connector that counters your opponent. And if you think that he doesn't expect a follow-up but wants to retreat, attack right away, or maybe is just baffled instead, chaining into phase 2 can be very effective. Otherwise, the connector should always be the end of your offense. Do not forget to check your stamina pool regularly as well. Oh, he actually did that, okay. Now if you are defending, it's most important to know the matchup and which counters are the best for your opponent. Your hidden stance is the most powerful tool on high stamina. It's a low risk, high reward ability if you know how to use it. I will cover it in detail in the upcoming chapter. In case you want to spend less stamina on defense, consider dodge attacking as well, but don't forget, the dodge attacks can only dodge very small and specific windows. Use them if you know they are going to hit or the opponent loves feinting into guard break. Also, do mostly the dodge heavy as it's not too bad if it gets parried. A parry on her dodge lights, on the other hand, can hurt quite a lot. Your parries as Nobushi always hurt, but sometimes blocking and playing safe is the best thing to do. A good Nobushi knows what to do in various situations. Don't feel frustrated at first because it takes a lot of experience and practice to become consistent at her defense game. I would even say that in this matter, she might be one of the most difficult characters in the game. As I said before, Nobushi's stamina game is her biggest weakness. It's the most decisive factor that limits your offense and your defense. Because of this, most of the time your offense is short-lived. Now include that her mix-ups are reactable in theory, and with that I mean she doesn't have a 50-50 or incredibly fast lights, and you see that she depends on her defense. Nobushi needs good reads. Sometimes a nice prediction can win you the game, because once you really get your mix-ups going, your opponent can easily feel overwhelmed. Congrats, you've made it to the last chapter of this video. Matchups on high level. This section of the video is meant for advanced For Honor players only. It's important that you know every character in the game to understand what I will be talking about. First of all, this is my personal perception of things. My analysis is mainly based on experiments, rational thinking and experience. I will start by showing you when and how to use hidden stance in general and in every matchup. After that, I'm going to mention my impression on the matchup, give tips on how to maximize your winning chances, and elaborate on interactions that are worth mentioning. There are two types of attacks you mainly counter with hidden stance. On the one hand, reactable on feintable attacks. These should be hidden stance if the punish does more damage than dodge attacks. Here I have a list of those that should be hidden stance if possible. So we have the Conqueror Shield Bash, Warlord Headbutt, Lawbringer Shove, Valkyrie's Shield Tackle, Nobushi Kick, Centurion Kick and Jab, Highlander Celtic Curse, Shinobi Kick, Gladiator Sucker Punch, and Faustina Ictus. On the other hand, we have fully feintable attacks with reactable mix-ups. Always watch out for attacks that can be hard feinted. You can catch many people off guard with hidden stance, but nothing is guaranteed. It's about mind games now. With Nobushi you can build up multiple lines of defense to force well elaborated offensives. You see, with hidden stance you can evade multiple attacks, and with the dodge afterwards you can punish another window, normally on reaction. Here we have a list of attacks this can be applied to. This is a longer list, so take your time and pause the video if necessary. On the left side of the list you find the attack that you can hidden stance. On the right you have the punisher if he goes through with it. The arrows on the left show alternative moves that are often used if the first attack is feinted. The slash shows attacks that can be dodged on the same window as the attack above. Most of these punishers could be done on reaction, but in a real fight they are pretty hard to pull off, so don't expect any miracles without training. With that out of the way, let's talk about the matchups in general. Let's start with Warden. Warden is a slightly bad matchup for Nobushi. She does have better range, the damage is equal, but Warden has a very strong offense and is very difficult to react to or to even counter. And don't forget that Nobushi's offense is weaker and she has worse stamina management. To win against Warden, try forcing a fast-paced game by intercepting his offense with Nobushi's lights. Bait his parries as well to stay unpredictable, and nevertheless look for his lights and his zones. This can easily turn the tides in any match. Remember to never get out of stamina against Wardens, this can be absolutely fatal. Utilize hidden stance and dodge attacks smartly. Raider actually gets countered by Nobushi. Both are equal in speed, Raider has more damage, but Nobushi has better range and a mix-up advantage that nullifies most of Raider's offense. Here again, use your lights to stop his low heavies and mix-ups, and punish everything you can punish. To safely maintain your distance, you can swift recall on blocks as well. Against Kensei, Nobushi has an even matchup. The range is even, the mix-ups are even, Nobushi has slightly more damage, but Kensei is a bit faster. Basically it all comes down to skill, as both have a huge kit and all tools needed to counter the other. In these matchups it's crucial to have a nice parry game, especially light parries can give Nobushi the momentum she needs to win. Look out for Kensei's top attacks, as they can be soft feinted in various ways. Remember the punish options that you have with hidden stance and dodge attacks. Conqueror is superior to Nobushi, but it's close if Nobushi is good. She does have more range and more damage, but it's difficult to counter Conk. Her offense is worse, and most importantly, Konk's stamina game is by far the better one. Try to force Konk into the parry game with some fast lights that catch dodges and shield bashes. Play the feint game and stop his momentum. The less he can do what he wants, the better for Nobushi. Keep your chains and feint simple. Don't blow your stamina, or a single mistake can cost you the entire game. Also, don't rely too much on hidden stand. You do not want to get out of stamina against Konk. Ever. Use swift recall on block to maintain your distance and regenerate stamina. If necessary, try to reposition yourself. Getting your defense straight is tough, but you need less good hits to win, so play it smart. Victory. Warlord is actually at a disadvantage against fierce Nobushi. Warlord has better stamina, both have similar offense, but Nobushi has more range, mix-up advantage and more damage. First off, everything depends on Nobushi being able to react to headbutt, which is possible with good training. Parry Warlord's lights, zone and take care against his heavies. They have armor. Play this matchup safe and slow. Maintaining your distance, you have safe, swift recalls against Warlord that come in handy. Some lights here and there should stop his momentum, and when he tries to parry and slows down, feint into guard break. Other feints and you risk trading. Some heavies can be nice as well, because Warlord can punish the kick very well, so the little connector mix-up should be pretty effective. Nobushi has the better kit, and if she plays it well and keeps control, she should be winning. Shugoki is a horrible matchup for Nobushi. I'm kidding. He can't do anything to you if you don't play risky. Guard break to remove his armor once in a while, and parry his lights. You can swift recall all his attacks safely, so he whiffs his heavy and his feint into guard break, which you can guard break afterwards safely. Don't rely on hidden stance or dodge attacks. Rely on dodge guard break. Guard breaks against Shugoki are just too good to consider using anything else. Against Peacekeeper, Nobushi actually has an advantage. PK is faster, your mix-ups are somewhat even, but Nobushi has significantly more damage and better defense. PK decides how fast this game is fought. Match her speed. Try to block her zones reliably. Parry her lights so she is forced to do heavies at some point, so you get to use nice hidden stances. Push your offense against her as well, as her defense is weak. Viper's retreat as a connector can be very useful if PK likes dodging after your chains. Berserker. Now this matchup is not in Nobushi's favor. Nobushi might have ever so slightly more damage and more range, and Berserker's defense is fragile, but his insanely strong offense more than makes up for it. His armor completely destroys Nobushi's defense capabilities, and as Berserker has the offense priority and good stamina management, he barely lets any Nobushi breathe on high level. So let's make this clear. As Nobushi, you don't use hidden stance nor dodge attacks in defense, but mainly in offense. The only exception is if Berserker is very low on stamina. And as there is no safe disengage for Nobushi once Berserker starts his chains, play it safe and try to minimize Berserker's damage. You win through counter offense once the fight resets. It's about the reads to get your offense started. Use fast lights, bait parries when he looks for it, try to get in his head and take over control. Cause once the good Nobushi can gain the initiative on Berserker, she does get some nice damage in. Orochi and Nobushi are about even. Orochi has effectively more range, he's faster, therefore he has attack priority. He negates some of Nobushi's defense, but he has a very weak defense himself. His offense is about killing with 1000 cuts, whereas Nobushi only needs 3 good reads. Again, you cannot use hidden stance nor dodge attacks in this matchup, because Orochi's lights are just too fast for every punisher. This is a pure game of basic skills. The player with better parries, or just blocks even, better reads and better reactions, wins. Orochi has a lot of unsafe counterattacks. If you can bait his dodge lights or Riptide Strike, you get huge damage. Look out for his zone, it's not too hard to parry if you train yourself to do it. Against Storm Rush, you can actually just do normal lights on reaction. Care for baits though. As Nobushi, try to match Orochi's speed and use it against him. Lawbringer has a hard time against Nobushi. Law has very strong parry punishes. The damage is equal, the defense is equal, but Nobushi's decent offense is by far superior here. This is a slow matchup where both fighters bait parries to eventually get the greedy opponent to give in. But where Law only has his normal attacks, and a fast toplight maybe, Nobushi has her kick mix-ups. As Nobushi, play it safe. Lawbringer has the better punisher, so don't give him a parry. He cannot really punish the kick, so try to play around it on the offense. Quick reminder, don't give him free block shoves. But if he gets some, you should eat the lights most of the time. In case you see patterns, do not hesitate to punish, you have dodge attacks. And always punish the shove out of neutral. You can also safely swift recall on the second part of Law's chain to disengage and punish whiffs if given the opportunity. If Law starts with a heavy, always parry the follow-up light. It's very predictable. You can hidden stance or dodge attack his unblockable heavy as well, but if you wish to play safe, you can just dodge back in time as you won't be in guard break range. Valkyrie and Nobushi are a pretty even matchup. Both same range, equal mix-ups, Nobushi has more damage, Valk more stamina. It's similar to Kensei and Nobushi. Both have a huge moveset to pick from. It's just about the better reactions, reads and experience. Valk is most of the time the aggressor. Nobushi has to respond, which is more difficult and takes more skill, but she has more damage than Valk, so all in all it's fair on high level. Valk is a bit like Raider. She needs her heavies to start her mix-ups. Good lights can interrupt her nicely. Bait parries to stay unpredictable, and remember that she can parry with lights as well. If you can parry her lights, you can force her to go into heavy mix-ups. And when she does, Nobushi can use her dodge attacks to counter the heavy feint into guard break, and feint into shield bash all at once. Dodge attacks are very strong in this matchup. Consider just dodging on reaction as well, so you also get the light parry once in a while. In case Valk starts feinting into lights, consider waiting patiently to punish these. When you're attacking as Nobushi, bait her deflects and dodge attacks, and remember using bypass retreat as a connector to stop dodges. The mirror matchup is purely about reaction skill. Nobushi's offense actually has no chance against her own defense, so this matchup is just about baiting an unsafe punisher. Be prepared for the longest baiting chains, try to think a step ahead and maintain your focus. Victory. Nobushi is slightly superior to Centurion. Nobushi has more damage, more range, the mix-ups are even, but Centurion has so much offense priority and is so difficult to predict that he excels in close combat. First off, the more distance Nobushi puts between her and Cent, the more offense priority she has. And her kick can be barely punished by Centurion, so her offense is very strong in this matchup. Don't be too afraid to get parried. Just mix things up a little. Maintain distance and punish all unsafe attacks. If he does the unblockable heavy, dodge into guard break to punish it. Once Cent is in your face, he will do heavies, feint into guard break, into more heavies, do lights, and he won't let you go. Remember to use swift recall on the second heavy and on lights to regain distance. And you can safely dodge back after counter guard breaks as well. This matchup is just about spacing. Cent trying to get close, Nobushi trying to keep him at bay. If your offense is decent, you win by playing safe. Now up to Nobushi's most difficult matchup in my opinion. I consider Highlander a strong counter. The mix-ups are even. The stamina is even for once. Both have long range. Nobushi even has offensive priority, but sadly Highlander has just so much damage that everything else doesn't matter. Highlander has to play defensive because Nobushi can shut down his offense completely with hidden stance and dodge attacks. So Highlander mostly plays in offensive form and tries to get dodges into punishes, whereas Nobushi tries to catch him, force him out of offensive stance and get offensive into his defensive stance. Doesn't sound that bad for Nobushi if we ignore the fact that 3 attacks from Highlander are enough to kill her, where she needs 6 or more. As Nobushi, never get out of stamina. Take your time and play it smart. Highlander is very slow, so it's just about the mind reads and predictions. Look for patterns in his matchup especially and try to confuse him with your huge kit, mixing it all up according to situation. Play with the timings of lights and heavy feint lights. Guard break sometimes as well to force him to counterattack. While hunting Highlander's offensive stance, you can utilize phase 2 of Nobushi to force him to leave offensive stance or to just do his lights to interrupt you. Be careful if he leaves offensive stance during your phase 2, this can open you up for high damage. Shinobi, one of the better matchups for Nobushi. Both have equal damage. Shinobi has more range, obviously, he's faster so he has attack priority, but Nobushi's mix-up advantage is just too good. Actually, Nobushi is one of the few that can safely counter the kick on reaction, and with that, Shinobi only has his normal attacks. Play this matchup mostly safe and focus on the guaranteed punishes. His range attacks and the zone should always get parried. Your offense wins long term if your defense is decent. Parry Shinobi's lights if he's careless to take away his momentum, bait his dodges with feint guard break, abuse the fact that you just need 2 decent attack chains to kill him. Gladiator is again a very even matchup. The mix-ups are pretty even, you have the same range, Nobushi has slightly higher damage, but Glad has excellent stamina management and he's a bit faster. Glad obviously has the offense priority, so match his speed. On close range, his kit is far too scary, even for Nobushi, so try to keep your distance and limit his offensive options. For that, utilize swift recoils on lights. Care on heavies, because the skewer and chains tracks swift recoil. If you get parries, even better of course. Utilize lights to disrupt his momentum and use heavies and feints into light as well to bait the parries. Once you have the momentum, your heavy chains are extremely powerful, as you can start the little connector mix-up. Do not use hidden stance to feint, as Glad heavies are too fast to punish with that. The iframes of hidden stance can evade lights, heavies, toe stamps and guard breaks on the same time window, so remember to use it. Watch out for feints into light and parry these so Glad cannot catch your hidden stance safely. For the dodge attacks, the window is narrower, so you can evade toe stabs and lights on the same timing, but heavies are on another. Look out for Gladiator's jump lights and dodge lights. If you see them coming and parry accordingly, you can get huge damage. Against Shaman, Nobushi has a slightly good matchup, but it's close. You do have more damage, nice defense counters against her, and you match her speed, whereas she has more range, better stamina and is difficult to react to. This is one of the few matchups where Nobushi wants to stay close to her opponent. Shaman can safely use Wildcat's Rage and Predator's Hunger on very long range. These attacks can be feinted or charged, so basically Shaman only needs to wait for a mistake. On close range, Nobushi can fight for offense priority instead, and harass with lights and normals, as she can interrupt Shaman's leap attacks with normal lights on reaction. Remember, the Shaman has a very fast zone. Blocking her attacks can be difficult, so if you can parry it instead, you can shut her offense down. The unblockable heavy and the zone come from the right direction, so pay special attention to that side. If Shaman always feints the heavy into a follow-up, try to use lights into it. Mix your defense up so Shaman has a hard time catching your punishes. You can also swift recoil her combos to deny the unblockable heavy mix-up. If she doesn't fully feint the unblockable heavy, you can whiff punish Shaman easily. However, using it too much will get her out of your range. Watch out for Raven's Claw. This should be an auto parry, so always remember to look for it when her chain ends. You can hidden stance her heavies and punish them with heavy into kick combo. The same timing catches Raven's Bile, but its recovery is much better, so you only get the double lights if you are fast. Nobushi's dodge attacks aren't good in this matchup. Aramsuha is a good matchup for Nobushi. He is faster and has attack priority, but Nobushi has the better mix-ups overall. Play it safe, find out what he likes doing most and work with parries. Because of Aramsuha's speed and infinite chain, the hidden stance cannot punish him reliably. Same applies for her dodge attacks. Work around your offense and her kick, as Aramsuha cannot punish it well. With Viper's Retreat you can catch his dodges, so remember to use that. Heavy Faint Light is a powerful tool against Aramsuha, as it wins against his parries and against Blade Blockade. Feints with hidden stance are too slow to defeat his fast heavy parry, so don't use them. And that covers my full guide on Nobushi. Now all that's left is to lock her in and play some games. If you enjoyed the journey and learned something new about this character, feel free to leave a like. If you think I missed something or you disagree with my statements, you have the comment section below to express yourself. I thank you all for watching, have a nice day and see you on the battlefield.